Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Real Country Jukebox Podcast with Raymond and James. We're going to talk about something a little bit different today. Raymond, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I tell you what, it sure is hot out here, but it's nice. I'd rather it be hot than have them storms we've been having.
Oh, yeah. We got us a shade tree, though. We're going to be okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's going to be nice. Yeah, we got something a little different today. We don't have a top 10 or anything, but my favorite music, for the most part, comes out of Texas. And the Texas music scene is incredible, and not just in country, but in all genres. There's so many artists of everywhere that comes from Texas. I mean, anywhere from Willie Nelson to, I believe, ZZ Top. Like, there's so many Texas artists out there that they could pretty much fit in anywhere. So the way we're going to kind of cover it is, I'm going to be naming some outlaw sound, underground type Texas music, and James is going to have some more like mainstream traditional sounding. But we're both a fan of all of it, so we're going to definitely be having a conversation about it, and we're just going to kind of be naming some of our favorites from Texas.
And we're fans of Texas in general. And for instance, some of the ones that I'm going to mention may have just been born there and weren't even there that long. Maybe they weren't necessarily raised there or whatever. And then some of them, you know, a lot of people were born and raised there and spent their whole life there until they made it in a career in country music. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I love Texas music, and the majority of my favorites come from right there, especially in East Texas. So
yeah, in Nashville, as you all know, Nashville is the home of country music. But for a long time now, I mean, Texas has had a huge circuit, and a lot of those guys moved to Nashville and had big careers. But a lot of the guys who moved to Nashville and had big careers had a huge following in Texas before they ever came to Nashville. And now, not to get too much on this, but with the Nashville music not being what it used to be, maybe the Texas scene is even better for country music.
I prefer it, to be honest with you.
See?
The majority of the music I listen to is Texas music.
Yeah.
So, anyway, is there one you want to lead off with?
No, you can go ahead if you got something in mind.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and start off with a Texas legend, is Waylon Jennings. He, to the best of my knowledge, he started out kind of trying to do the right thing. You know, you see him with the clean cut hair and the shaved face and wearing a suit and everything. And I don't know exactly what happened, but I'm sure it has something to do with the Nashville machine, pushed him back to Texas, and he just started playing the hits that we all know and love. Like, you know, the collaborations with Willie Nelson. Some of my favorite music of his was with Hank Williams Jr., and he really took Hank under his wing also when Hank decided to do the same thing to break away from his dad. So, and I love Waylon Jennings' music, and I think that he's a great legend in country in general.
I do too, and I think a lot of people confuse being a rebel and being an outlaw, I guess is the word they like to use now, with having some really, really, really bad habits. And that some of them may have had some bad habits before they got themselves straight and whatnot, but a lot of times it's just bucking the system. You know, Waylon Jennings has walked out on talk shows, and I mean, there's just a lot of things. To me, the outlaw term, there's a lot of different things it can mean, but you kind of buck the system kind of like Waylon did, starting out clean cut and trying this, and Willie did the same thing, and then, you know, at some point, you know, they realize, you know, and that's what makes them outlaws. They're going to do things their way, whether they make it or not, and they don't care whether you like it. And that's what I love about Waylon Jennings.
Same here, man. They're few and far between. And I'm going to kind of match some of my old guys up and then counter it with a new person when it's my turn. That kind of like what I see resemble the old guys that are just putting out music now.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll let you carry on.
One I'll talk about is Tracy Byrd. For the longest time, I like Tracy Byrd's music, but you know how you got those artists you love, and then you got artists that you like okay, and then you got artists that I don't really dislike them, but I don't really listen to them a whole lot. For the longest time, that's how I was with Tracy Byrd. He would have a song, maybe, I didn't dislike any of his music, but every fifth or sixth song I would really, really like. And I remember seeing him at the Long Branch kind of early on and thinking, I might have been into a girl or listening to the opening act or something like that. I think at that time, Jason Michael Carroll might have even opened that show while he was living out that way. But I remember seeing Tracy Byrd in concert and just not being too impressed. And then, I don't know what year it was. It was kind of when Eric Church was getting started, because if I'm recalling right, there was a big festival at Walnut Creek, and Tracy Byrd was on that bill. and we were pretty close up, and Tracy Byrd came up there, and I don't know if it's because I was closer, maybe I was paying more attention, what it was, but Tracy Byrd was absolutely phenomenal. And I had a whole new respect for him, and I think I like more of his music now than I did then. So Tracy Byrd is from, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Vidor, Texas. But Tracy Byrd is that guy that there's never changed anything about him. He's still, not that you have to have this to be country, but he's still wearing the cowboy hats and the jeans and he's still got that cowboy, that George Strait, Clay Walker, Tracy Byrd type look, and I love that. And I think Tracy Byrd I think he's extremely underrated and just a cool Texas artist.
Yeah, well, whatever happened to him? Because it's like he was putting out a record constantly and then just kind of stopped.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, and I was a fan of some of his work, like Lifestyles Is Not So Rich and Famous.
I love that one.
And I'm From the Country. But some of those ones, like Just Let Me Be in Love or whatever, I didn't care for those.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that one either. And there's 3 or 4 kind of like that one that I'm not big into. But I like the real
too.
hard, blast your speakers songs like Lifestyles Is Not So Rich and Famous, and Big Love was one that was like that. And to me, Walking to Jerusalem was kind of like that. So I guess his claim to fame is probably that Keeper of the Stars, which has been played in 7 million weddings. And I get it. It's a well-written song. But I like the upbeat stuff when it comes to Tracy.
Me too. Man.
And tidbit, I don't know how many people remember this, but he came and played in the Michael Jordan Celebrity Golf Classic here in Greenville. I'm guessing it was probably early 90s, but that was a pretty cool ordeal too for him to be walking around out there. I think he's a pretty good golfer too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My next one, I'm gonna match Waylon up with Cody Jinks, man, because Cody Jinks to me is a modern day Waylon. He's just got that. He's got that look. He's got an outlaw feel about him. His music does. He does. He's a super nice guy in person, but his just demeanor, he's got the tattoos, the big beard, used to have long hair, and he just kind of does things his own way. And it's one thing to nowadays with YouTube, anybody can put together a band and end up getting some sort of music on a record, but Cody Jinks, he does his own thing, man, and everything he writes and puts out is good. I even thought the Heavy Metal album was good. I mean, anything he's affiliated with is just awesome.
And is that your favorite artist that you've met? Because I know how excited y'all were when you met him. I kind of put you on the spot on that one.
Yeah, man, I love Haley Withers too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's between those two, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that is kind of tough there when it comes to that. Between Haley and Cody, gosh, man, I don't know.
It can be a tie.
I gotta go with Cody Jinks.
Okay.
I gotta go with Cody Jinks because look, you got to think about it, man. Haley's had 3 albums, and she's got a 4th one coming out tomorrow. Remind it again.
Y'all download it, listen to it. It's gonna be really good.
But Cody Jinks has had like several. I don't want to say off the top of my head, but at least 7 or 8, or more. So yeah, I gotta go with Cody Jinks. He is my favorite that I've met. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll say that.
That's still a great story.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Sons of the Desert comes to mind to me. Tim and Drew Womack, they're brothers. Drew Womack was the lead singer for Sons of the Desert during their time frame. They hit it pretty hard for about 8 to 10 years. But those guys are from Texas. They're from, or at least their origins are from Waco, Texas. And those guys, to me, I like to mention because their harmony and that sound, nobody sounds like Sons of the Desert. If you're familiar with their music at all, you don't ever have to hear a song on the radio and wonder what band this is. They had a unique sound. And it's interesting because at the tail end of that big 90s boom when Diamond Rio and McBride and the Ride and Shenandoah and Little Texas and all those bands were hot, kind of toward the end of that, Sons of the Desert came on. And to me, they're up to par with all those bands. I'm not saying they're better. I'm not saying they're my favorite. But they were definitely up to par with all those bands, and I felt like they deserved a mention for that. A lot of you who might not remember them at least remember the song. They did the kind of I don't know if you call it a verse, but kind of the bridge, and kind of sang with Leanne Womack on I Hope You Dance. That was a pretty cool ordeal. And Drew Womack, the lead singer, is now actually the lead singer for the current Lone Star group. So he's still out there singing, and to me it makes Lone Star sound better because I think Drew is just a fantastic singer.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I'm gonna go ahead and get right into Whiskey Myers because Whiskey Myers is my favorite on this list, period. And you know, you don't really know what you're going to get from them. You might get a hard rock sound, or you might get a very country sound, but they're just another group, just like Cody Jinks. You can put them right in the same category. Sometimes they have concerts together. They're just very, just do things their own way, man. And I talked about them several times before. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but you know, they're friends and cousins that came together to perform, to start a band up, and it started with little dive bars here and there that eventually led to doing some stuff in East Texas, to the whole country, and now they're over in Europe and all kinds of places, you know, just doing what they want and doing their own thing. And I even heard Cody Cannon, the lead singer, say that if somebody wrote him up a nice contract, would he ever sign on it? And he said, you know, the thought of getting in a private jet once in a while and going places sounds nice, but signing to die line, not signing to die line sounds better. In other words, he don't, you know, that they'd rather get on the bus and play 6 nights a week than to have guaranteed this and have to do it their way.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I just that I love about that group, man. And you know, it's just, they're phenomenal. They're big on harmonica, and they got all kinds of different instruments they introduce into music, and they write all their own stuff. There's only one song that they didn't write themselves, and that's because it was co-written with Brent Cobb. I mean, they write everything. I love Whiskey Myers.
Have y'all ever heard of George Strait? He was born in Petite, Texas, and he had a few hits in the 80s.
Yeah.
And the 90s.
It then kind of fell off.
And then kind of fell off the face of the earth. He made that movie.
Yeah,
Hits in the 80s, 90s. He's had hits forever. Anyway, seriously, George Strait, he's called the king for a reason. He's got to be the most famous singer to ever come out of Texas. And I mean, speaking of stuff, there's nothing we can really say about him. I mean, feel free to add whatever, Raymond, other than what you already know and what we've talked about before. But we haven't talked about him on a few podcasts. But the guy's just, like I said before, him and Alan Jackson are kind of the standard barriers for country music as far as I'm concerned. And one thing I want to do at some point, I don't know if I'll ever get to do this, but at some point, I've talked about before, I like going to see filming locations and stuff like that. There's some people on the internet that went and posted some pictures of visiting all the spots from Pure Country. Most of those places are still standing. At some point when I'm in those parts of Texas, and I don't remember exactly where it is other than the scene shot at Billy Bob's, I would love to go visit all those spots from Pure Country.
Man, my thing is, I get what you're saying about George Strait, and he's good and everything, but if Buddy Jackson hadn't have told him to bring in the strings and the horns and let him know that we don't need the accordion, that he wouldn't be where he's at today. That would have been the end of his career.
You movie buffs will get that. Some of you may not.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, he was up there wearing white tennis shoes.
Right.
So,
Buddy Jackson, man, as far as, that was probably about halfway through George Strait's career. If Buddy Jackson hadn't done what he done, the career just would have went the wrong way.
That's exactly why he got where he was.
And then George Strait could say, "What a neward."
Yeah, I know. I don't know why he said it like that, man.
And I said it like that because I don't know if he's listening to this or not, but my buddy Chris Sutton, he always, that was one of his favorite lines. He would always, "What a neward," anytime somebody was doing something weird. And it's kind of like the way George Strait called out Buddy Jackson for trying to add stuff to a song when he's the king. But anyway, that was just, that was funny.
Yeah, it's all good. My next one's Sunny Sweeney. I talked about her on the Favorite Females podcast. She's just like Cody Jinks and Whiskey Myers. She's kind of newer, but will never really cave to that Nashville record signing on the label type pull, you know, and I appreciate that about her. I think that might have kind of like been the decline of her career because of that, but in my opinion, she don't need it because she just puts out great music. I have all of her albums downloaded, although I've only got 3 or 4, but I think that's all she has.
She's so good.
Yeah, I agree, and so underrated, and came out at a time when some of these other ones were, you know, sound like pop stars that couldn't make it in pop music.
Very much so.
Or get paid to dance and whatever, where she was just putting out good music. You know?
That's right. While we're talking about ladies, I'm going to mention, I won't get too carried away on this one because I've talked about her so much, but my favorite female artist is Leanne Womack, and she's from Jacksonville, Texas. And one cool thing I've realized recently about her is obviously I follow her on social media, and she'll put out videos every now and then talking about stuff. And the other day, just this week, she posted a video on Instagram and Facebook. Somebody had asked her about the Little Past Little Rock video. Was there a ghost in the back seat of the car in the Little Past Little Rock video? And I thought, this is just weird. But anyway, she answered the question and said, yes, there is. So me being curious, I've seen the video numerous times. I don't know why I just caught this, but
Because you couldn't keep your mind off her eyes.
that's exactly right. Case closed.
Yeah.
But looking back at it, and I mean, I'm sure it's not an actual ghost, but I want to watch it a few more times and see what's going on, because I watched a little clip of it the other night, and there is, during one of the lines of the song, something kind of pops up in the back seat of the Jeep, and y'all check that out. Leanne Womack.
Is it supposed to be there? Did she?
I think so. And a matter of fact, she said on there, she said, yes, there is a ghost in the back seat of the Jeep, and something along the lines of, y'all should know who it is. Haven't figured that out yet, because I looked at it very briefly, but that's going to be my homework for this weekend. But if you want to see something kind of eerie and interesting, Leanne Womack, Little Past Little Rock video, something shows up in the back seat of that car. I'm kind of thinking it's her husband, Frank, but I don't know that. So anyway, I'm sure they did it. I'm sure it's not an actual ghost, but I'm sure they did it for some kind of pun or something fun. But it's at least something, if you like urban legends or like stuff like that, it's something to check out.
Yeah, I almost wondering, this might be a corny way of thinking, but I'm just wondering if it might be like symbolizing the guy she's leaving, he's still behind her.
Maybe. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
See, when we get better in the future, this would be a good opportunity that we could put on the video and let y'all see for yourself, but we don't know how to do all that stuff. We're just sitting out on the tailgate.
The urban legends of country music.
Yeah. My next one's David Allan Coe. A lot of people know David Allan Coe. He's been singing for 300 years.
At least.
I like David Allan Coe. There's some of the songs that to me ain't that great, but he's got some that are really good, and he's a good songwriter. And he's definitely known for singing about Texas, that's for sure. Although, if my research was correct, he was born in Ohio and moved to Dallas, Texas early in age, or something like that. But it says his origins from Dallas, Texas. But anyway, you know, he kind of did the outlaw thing with Willie and Waylon, and sometimes I think he wanted to be on their level and just weren't. I ain't sure, because he always mentions them in his songs, but they don't ever mention him. Have you ever noticed that? Like, he's got one called Willie, Waylon, and Me, but anyway. I know you talked before that you ain't a huge fan because of vocals and whatnot.
I've never. He's got a few songs I like, but I've never been a huge fan. But I mean,
did you see
a
him
lot
at
of people?
Deadwood?
I did.
You did?
I did.
I
did see him at Deadwood. Yeah.
That'd have been like 03 maybe.
Yeah, we didn't know each other at that time, but yeah, we were both at that show when he came to. I don't know how many times he came to Deadwood, but he came one time. So it might have just been that one time. I'm sure it was more than once.
I had just got my driver's permit and drove out there. I remember that.
Yeah. So.
But yeah.
There's a lot of people there.
Oh yeah.
Another one I'm going to mention is Terry McBride. Terry McBride, lead singer of McBride and the Ride, and they've just started coming out with music again. They still sound phenomenal. Terry McBride is from Lampasas, Texas. Did I pronounce that right? As far as you know? I know you've been in Texas a lot.
Lampasas,
yeah. And I don't have a whole lot to say about that, other than I've always said on several podcasts that amongst that big boom of bands in the 90s and early 2000s, I think McBride and the Ride was right up there with everybody else too, and didn't quite make it as far as they should have, in my opinion. And so Terry McBride, just a mention of him, McBride and the Ride being from Texas.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna go opposite of my last guy, David Allan Coe, and say Granger Smith. Granger is he don't have an outlaw sound or anything like that, but he isn't necessarily mainstream either. He's kind of caught in between, because I feel like he's more famous for the Earl Dibbles Jr. comedy character that he does. And Granger's music's pretty good. I'm more of a fan from his religious standpoint. He does a lot of his podcasts are more of like a preacher, but kind of like somebody that's on your same level, very country like. And I used to watch Keeping Up with the Smiths on YouTube. It was very family oriented. It was his kids and his wife, and they'd be doing stuff on the farm or whatever. And he seems to be a really stand up guy. And he's recently quit country music to proceed preaching, and to pick up preaching. And I've actually listened to some of his sermons, and I prefer to listen to him than most of anything that I found on the internet. He's very good, and it comes across more as, you know, like a friend telling you versus, you know, somebody just up there drilling the Bible on you. But he's got a couple songs I like, but it kind of doubles up because Earl Dibbles Jr. does that comedy stuff, and the videos are very wild. It's funny if you can separate it from and just know this ain't real country music. This guy's making a joke. The videos are hilarious, and I've seen him in concert twice. And when he changes from the Granger Smith to the Earl Dibbles Jr. character, the crowd's a little bit wilder, and him and his band is too. I actually saw him at Billy Bob's. That's where I got this shirt from. I actually saw him when I got this shirt, and he put on a heck of a show. Everybody loved it. So
now that you said that about the preaching, I'm gonna check some of that out, man. I would probably like. Is it on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so good. They're about the preaching to me is better than the podcast. The podcast are people will call in, ask them questions about, like, you know, this is what's going on. What do you recommend? Like, I don't know, maybe I haven't seen my dad in 20 years. Now he wants to come and see the picture. What do you recommend? Stuff like that. But the preaching is, he was telling about losing his son. For those of you that don't know, and I ain't gonna run off into this too much because we still got other.
I remember hearing that story.
But yeah, when he lost his son, you know, he talked about the stuff that him and his wife went through, and he told that story about what they were doing at the time, and it's just very, it's very sad, but the positive that they took from it is just great. And he's got a new book out called Like a River, which is River was his son's name that passed away. He was 3 years old, and I got a son that's 3, so that whole story really is touching to me.
Resonates with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
6 foot tall, 175 pounds, from Austin, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Rick Trevino. The only part of that that's probably true is that he's from Austin, Texas. I made up all the other stuff. But no, I'm a huge Rick Trevino fan. In the 90s, man, when Alan and Garth and all those guys were killing it, and he's not on their level, but that guy, man, he went through a spell where he did She Can't Say I Didn't Cry, and Dr. Time, Just Enough Rope, all those songs, man, that he did. Bobby Ann Mason.
I like Bobby Ann Mason. I don't remember the other ones.
Running Out of Reasons to Run. He had a spell, man, right there for about 2 or 3 years where I mentioned the guys like Alan and Garth, where his music was on that level. Yeah. Now, he didn't sustain it like they did. I mean, everybody doesn't. But I'm just saying that I wanted to mention him because Rick Trevino, man, his voice is so good, man, and his look and everything. And I liked him a lot, man. And right, like I said, right there for a spell, if you're talking about small doses, he hit the top as far as I'm concerned.
Man, I had a chance. I think I might have told you this story. I ain't gonna get into the whole story for sake of time, but when I was in Brownwood, Texas, I had a chance to go see Rick Trevino play at a bar. I think it was no cover charge.
Yeah.
Free, just to go see him, you know. And just for certain circumstances, it didn't work out, and I didn't go. But
I've never seen him either.
Yeah, I thought that would have been pretty cool. And to be honest with you, I'm being completely honest. Bobby Ann Mason was the only song that we had at the time.
Okay.
He didn't have a very long career, did he?
Not long enough, man. Like I said, that 3 or 4 years he hit it big. I mean, he made it. He left his mark, but
yeah,
I wish it had been a little more.
Yeah, but anyway, I wish I had checked them out now because I've heard you and Chad, your brother, talk about how much, you know, that y'all like them. So I wish I had one.
If nothing else, listen to Dr. Time.
Okay.
Dr. Time is so good.
All right, I'll check that out. I'm gonna mention Willie Nelson. I'm gonna pair him with Lucas Nelson. They both sound just alike. They both look just alike, and Lucas is his son. So, which most people know, but in case you didn't, we saw Lucas when he was at the Grand Ole Opry, and to me, it's a sound that you just got to appreciate. It ain't something you won't listen to all the time, but it's very good for certain moods, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, he sounds, and I'm just like that with Willie. I like Willie enough for him to be on this list, but to me, Willie's music is best when he's collaborating.
I agree.
Anything he collaborates with is so good, man. Like, I mean, I like Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain and Georgia, the Ray Charles song, and Seven Spanish Angels and all that. But
Seven Spanish Angels with Ray Charles. Yeah, Ray Charles.
Yeah.
That is right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Man, that's so good.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I mean, but to me, I prefer what he does with Waylon. That's my favorite stuff.
Classic stuff.
Yep.
Doug Supernall is from Bryan, Texas. He was about like Rick Trevino as far as time frame, I guess, but Reno and Red and Rio Grande, those songs he came out with there for a while. He had a lot of personal problems, a lot of stuff he faced, and he passed away a few years ago. But Doug Supernall definitely left his mark. I think his music was really good. I think one of his sons played college football. But yeah, he kind of had a hard life or whatever, and then kind of resurfaced not too long before he passed away. But I thought he deserved a mention.
Yeah, they're going right, man. Yeah, I mean, if they're out there and you like them at all, they deserve a mention. That's the way I see it. With that being said, I'm going to go to this person, Casey Musgraves. One of the best albums I have ever heard was her first album, Same Trailer, Different Part. And since then, she hasn't done anything I like. But she deserves to be on
crazy?
Yeah, she deserves to be on this list. And that was an album, man, that all right, here's the deal with that. I'd only heard one song off that, which was Same Trailer, Different Part. It was her last night in Oklahoma City. And Stacy found a concert at a casino. She said it's Casey Musgraves. I said, like, well, I like that song, you know, and she's pretty. We'll definitely go. So we go, man, and I was blown away from the first song she sung to the end. And she done that Here You Come Again by Dolly Parton. And
I've heard her do that. That's really good.
Man, this is so good. So on the way home, man, anytime we would stop anywhere, I was looking for that CD. And I eventually found it at a truck stop. It was like $18 for 10 songs. I bought it.
Wow.
I loved it. We listened to it from, I believe it was like Augusta, Georgia, all the way home. We listened to it. We both loved it. And man, she hasn't done anything since I like.
And it's different with her too, because, you know, a lot of times you don't necessarily, you're not in the forefront winning awards and stuff like that if you're not having radio play. And she was one of those that she's never really gotten a lot of radio play, but right there for a while, she was winning award after award.
Yeah.
Like Female Vocalist of the Year and stuff like that, maybe even Album of the Year, which is rare without having radio success. But she goes from no radio success to award winning, maybe even Grammys. I don't know. I don't really watch a whole lot of that.
I don't either.
To just all of a sudden, nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
I don't know how
It's weird
that
to me.
works. Me neither, man.
Radney Foster from Del Rio, Texas. I've mentioned him before. I think he's a highly underrated act too. And I saw him one time at an Eric Church concert. He was there, and that's where I met him at. The one time I met him, it was really cool to see him there at that show and supporting Eric Church, and just a really underrated artist there to see a really, at that time, underrated artist. Now Eric's exploded, but I thought he deserved a mention too. That first album, that Del Rio, Texas, I think it's called Del Rio, Texas, 1959. It's solid.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's a good one. I'm gonna go to Shane Smith and the Saints. I haven't listened to a whole lot of them. They're from Austin, Texas, but I heard them open up for Whiskey Myers twice in 3 days actually. They were in Raleigh and then they went to the Outer Banks, and we actually went and met Shane Smith the second time, and he was really nice, really cool. Spent a lot of time talking to us, and just his demeanor made me want to support him more. So I downloaded some of his stuff, and his music's really good. It's kind of got like it's hard for me to explain his voice. It doesn't sound like a country voice. It's almost got more of a, I can't really describe it, more of maybe like an early 90s rock, almost like a Pearl Jam sound, but the music's country. Like, his fiddle player is one of the best I've ever heard, in my opinion. I mean, and there's so much fiddle in their music, but his voice is very distinct. And they play him a lot in Yellowstone. I think that's kind of like what got him kicked off and got him on tour with Whiskey Myers. And I don't want to tell this story wrong, but I'm 90% sure, because I listened to so many interviews, but I'm about positive it was Shane Smith and the Saints. Their bus burnt down, and with the drop of a hat, Turnpike Troubadours helped them get back going. I don't know whether they let them borrow a bus, bought them a bus, or whatever, but
Excellent.
yeah, all those groups, man, they all, like back in the old days when, you know how they used to like play each other's songs and stuff and like tour together? All that Oklahoma and East Texas rock, country style music, underground stuff, they all support each other because they know they're not getting it from, you know, multi-million-dollar industry. You know?
Right. Neil, voice cracked a little bit. Neil McCoy is from Jacksonville, Texas, and another one that his was probably a little bit longer than the other guys I mentioned, but he had a pretty good career. And I want to say maybe even got an Entertainer of the Year at one of the fan-based award shows. But Neil McCoy, if you've never seen him in concert, at least in the 90s it was very high energy. The guy had strong vocals. When he came out and did The Shake and No Doubt About It and Wink and all those songs, he was high energy. He was fun to watch on stage. And he just he came here to Greenville one time back when City Hotel and Bistro was still open, and he played there, and that was cool. It was good to be there for that. But
I can't believe he played there. That's crazy.
He sure did, man.
Dang.
Holiday Inn. But he played there, and he played the WRNS, I think, free show around, I think, 95 out in Kinston when they used to have that. But anyway, Neil McCoy deserves a mention, man. You guys had some really good music over the years, and I love, love, love the things that he stands for and talks about as far as his patriotism and things of that nature. So he's quick to come to people's back about, you know, I know for a while, and he may still be doing it, he would, I want to say it was every day, would get online and do the Pledge of Allegiance every morning.
Oh, that's cool.
That's just, I just got so much respect for that, man.
Yeah.
Because that should never be a lost art.
Yeah, that's real cool, man. I'm going to follow that up with somebody that reminds me a lot of Neil McCoy. They kind of were out about the same time as Mark Chestnut. He's got so many good songs, and you know, during the early 90s, he was kind of unstoppable, man. And another thing too that isn't really got as much to do with him, but Cody Jinks. I try to notice what people have playing before their shows. And
I do too.
When we went to go see Cody Jinks, it was basically like a Mark Chestnut pre-show.
Good.
And he name dropped them on Hippies and Cowboys in his live album. So I feel like he replaced Haggard with Mark Chestnut.
I like that.
So I'm thinking he's a big Mark Chestnut guy.
The next generation, it makes sense not to, because we talked about this before, you know somebody's name dropping just to be name dropping when they're mentioning guys that you don't know, but you're 99% sure they don't actually listen to. But that, the way Alan Jackson would mention George Jones is kind of like the next generation with Cody Jinks mentioning Mark Chestnut. So that makes sense. You believe people when it adds up as far as generations and stuff.
Yeah, and I love them, but people with George Strait you to death too. They love name dropping him.
Right, they do. They definitely do. The last one I'm going to mention is Miranda Lambert. Y'all know she's from Longview, Texas. At least she was born in Longview, Texas. I think she might have lived around the Tyler area. But there's nothing we can say about her other than just what a sustainable career, what a huge career still right now. And I hope it never changes because I love that girl.
Yeah, for sure. The last one I'm going to mention is Cody Johnson. Cody Johnson's one of the few that's still singing the, I know people call it genre country western. I kind of separate them. I think there's a difference, you know. I mean, you don't hear Red Akins and Alan Jackson sing cowboy songs really from like the Georgia guys, just like you don't really hear some of the Texas guys sing about working on tractors and stuff like that. And I just feel like Cody Johnson is someone that's bringing the western style country music back. It's a lot of ranching, a lot of cowboying, a lot of rodeoing. I mean, the majority of the songs he's talking about rodeo. So,
yeah, and for you people who may just hear the stuff on the radio, me and him have talked about this before. If you've just heard the stuff on the radio and you love him, I promise you, because we both agree that the best stuff he's got is not even on radio. If you love the stuff on radio, dig a little bit deeper, because I think you will really, really, really fall in love with the other stuff.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, Cody, if you ever listen to this, the stuff you put on the radio is disappointing compared to what you normally have. I mean, really, if for some reason I'm actually listening to the radio, which is hardly ever, and a Cody Johnson song comes on, I'm never thinking like, man, you know, this is so good. It's not. Cowboys Are Kings are good. Me and My Kind. Wild as You. There's
Diamond in My Pocket.
Yes, albums full of good country western songs. That's what needs to be up there. That's what everyone wants to hear, you know. And I'll say that 100%. And another thing too, Cody's one of these, man. He's very outspoken and can be. He's always been throughout his whole career said what he wanted to say on stage. He just took up for Aldine last week on stage. He has been known to let's see. There's been a couple during COVID. He was very vocal and and told everyone that regardless of how you feel about Trump, he's your president. You should respect him. And that was right there on stage. Like, he's very, very outspoken about what he believes, no matter what. And I got support for anyone that is very unapologetic about patriotism.
Me too.
And how they feel about certain subjects, especially to a massive group like that.
Right.
So. But anyway, that's all I've got for today. And the next one we give out is going to kind of be something different. I ain't going to give away what we're doing yet, but it's not going to be a
I'm glad you said that because I was about to tell it. But it's good.
Really?
It's, no, it's good. No, don't tell it. Don't tell it.
Just don't give a specific release date, but tell it. And then that might make people want to.
No, let's wait. Let's wait. That'll
work. In the meantime, we hope y'all like, share, and subscribe. And if there's anything you like, don't like, put it in the comments or send us some of those instant messages. I've gotten some of them before. So all that's pretty cool. And we hope y'all have a good weekend.